Hello, welcome back. I am really excited to talk about mental health today. I put out a little story on Instagram asking you guys for questions, and I only posted that when did I do that? Like 5 hours ago, and I've gotten a lot of questions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start answering the ones that have come in and then maybe do a part 2 answering the rest. I'm just gonna start from the first one I got and make my way down to the last one. The first one is, does spirituality play a part in your mental health journey? And that's a great question. I actually feel like a lot of people turn to God in their healing journey. I'm more on the spiritual end where I don't currently practice a religion, but I am very spiritual. Like, I believe in, throwing out your emotions and trusting the universe and manifestation. Any advice for someone who has a spouse who deals with mental health issues? So obviously I don't have a spouse, but I can relate it to kind of like how it was with family. And I think that from their perspective it's hard, right? Like, it's hard to be the spouse or the brother or the sister or the mother or the father or anyone, or even the best friend of someone that's really going through it mentally. I think that my best advice would be to have that open dialogue with them and tell them, like, hey, I know I don't know exactly what you're feeling, what you're thinking, where it's all coming from, but I'm here for you. And just letting them know that is really comforting, because at least for me personally, I didn't really want to talk about the in-depths of what I was feeling because I didn't understand why I was feeling that way. And it was really hard for me internally. So to talk about it deeply with friends and family could sometimes be hard. So just remember that and try not to take offense to that and just be there. That's my best advice. You have so much confidence. I need self-confidence. How do I build it back up? That's very sweet of you. Thank you. I've worked really hard on my confidence, specifically this last year. I feel like it's been a struggle my whole life. But the truth is, I healed my mental health, and I still deal with mental health. For those who don't know, I'm diagnosed with major depressive disorder, anxiety, and I also have recovered from a binge eating disorder. So I've been through a lot. I think I spent a lot of my time until I went to treatment in 2022, where I started to actually focus on that childhood trauma related to my body and my confidence. And what I decided in treatment was that my body is not a measure of my worth, and my body is my body. And even now, as I've started to move my body more, it's been for my mind and less about external validation. So that's been really important to me. But I swear to you, just deciding that you're confident is the answer. And like, deciding that you're not going to let people make you feel small, and that you're not going to let people make you feel cringe. That is really the key for me, at least. Do you have a toolbox of strategies you pick from? Good to know what's appropriate for the situation you're in. Many thanks. That is a great question. I did, like, in treatment, actually write out a specific toolbox. I'd love to try to find that in my notes. But what I really do is, like, my mindset around coping skills is that it can be however big or however small. So sometimes it's like going for a walk. Sometimes it's getting that cold, fresh air in the morning. Sometimes it's taking a cold or hot shower. Sometimes it's calling my mom, calling my dad, talking to a friend. Sometimes it's scrolling on TikTok and disassociating. I'll be so honest. Like, sometimes I just disconnect to reconnect. There's going to grab a coffee. And then there's the more like serious ones where I will, remind myself of like 3 things I love about myself, 3 things that I know I've done in the past that have helped me. Moving my body has become something that's used to be something that was so like hard for me, but now it's been like a healing thing for me because I've disconnected it from my weight and my body, and it's all about my mind now. So it's like I move to feel better. I do love going for walks. That's a really big coping skill for me. But my biggest thing is when I'm in this situation, like when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling anxious, depressed, I ask myself what's called for now. What do I need to do right now? And it could literally be going to take a nap, or it could be going to a workout class, or it could be going for a walk, or it could be splashing cold water on my face. It doesn't have to be these big things. How did you talk? Oh, very on topic. How did you talk yourself into going to workout classes solo? I'm so nervous and anxious. Totally relate to that. If you go back to my first video when I was going to a workout class for the first time, I was so freaking nervous. I did go with my sister-in-law to my first one, which was helpful because she was actually further up in the class. I wanted to go in the back, but just having her presence there was like really comforting to me. So my biggest advice would be to go with someone for your first one. And then after that, you realize how like honestly silly it is to be so scared, because you're going there for yourself. Everyone else is going there for themselves, and you're not focused on each other. You really aren't. Like, I've never judged someone else in a class. And I've never actually felt judged in a class. So even by the instructor. I will say, like, maybe look up your instructor beforehand, or maybe like go to the gym and introduce yourself, feel out the vibe. Next question is treatments, medications, or supplements that helped. My son is going through it hard. I'm really sorry to hear that. I love when moms or dads reach out to me. It actually like hits my heartstrings pretty hard, because it just shows how great you are that you care about their mental health and helping them. The treatments that I've done is I did residential. I've done like talk therapy since 2016, but in 2022 for 2 months I went to a residential treatment center. I've talked about it before. I went to the Lidner Center of Hope in Mason, Ohio. I have a whole mental health highlight on my Instagram page so you can get more information about that. Medications, I've been all over the place. I've been on Lexapro before. I've been on Wellbutrin before. I've been on others that I forget, but what happened when I went to treatment was they weaned me off what I was on, because obviously it wasn't working, and then they safely weaned me on to what I'm currently on now that works for me, which is, I think it's 275 milligrams of Effexor and 2 milligrams of Abilify. Effexor is more like the heavy hitter. You have to be really careful with that medication. Again, always talk to your doctor. You have to be careful because you can't just stop taking it or it'll really affect you. And the Abilify is kind of like a booster, which is like a small little boost. Next question, do you have panic attacks, or have you ever? I have had panic attacks. I'd say I've had like a handful. I think anxiety and panic attacks, at least I counter them as like different things. So when I've had a panic attack, when I really feel like I can't get myself out of it, that's when you have to do like something drastic. And I like learned to stick my face in a cold ice water bucket, and then like deregulate my nervous system. However, when I'm having an anxiety attack, I more so am less in that panic zone, and I'm able to like talk myself down. But when you're having a panic attack, it's very, very hard, from my experience, to get yourself out of it. But something about like that cold water rush is really, it's like been proven to help you. So that's my biggest tip. And then after is taking care of yourself, because those are exhausting. Those are a very like exerting thing to go through. So make sure you take care of yourself and rest afterwards. What would I recommend for others that also struggle? That is such a important question, and a very broad question. And the way I'm going to answer that is that you need to find what works for yourself. Finding your coping skills is so important. I did not start healing and recovering until I found what works for me. It won't be what works for everyone else. So like, yes, you're watching this video and you're learning from me, from my experience, but your experience might be different. And I think that's really important to remember. But I mean, if I'm talking like as a new person who's just recently dealing with these things, my first step would be seeking therapy. You can always start in talk therapy and then go deeper into different routes of therapy. If you feel like you need more than that, there's outpatient treatment. If you feel like you need more than that, there's inpatient treatment. If you feel like you're in a very scary place, there's immediate care. You can go to an emergency room. There are so many sources. So make sure you're, looking into that. EMDR, I want my son to try this, but I don't know where to begin. Thank you. So, the first step is going to be finding an EMDR therapist that you trust and enjoy. When I had EMDR explained to me, and anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's eye motion let me look it up really quick because I don't want to say it wrong. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's a type of psychotherapy that helps individuals heal from the symptoms and emotional distress caused by disturbing life experiences, basically caused by trauma. And when my therapist in treatment explained EMDR to me, I literally laughed. I was like, what? Because the way I did it was you basically revisit your traumas while holding. You can do it through like patting, but I was holding actually like vibrational little like oval things in my hands. And as we were talking about the trauma, she would increase the vibration. And I don't know I'm not educated on it enough to know like exactly what that means for your brain. But basically I faced my traumas head on. I talked about them. I created like this safe haven that I now go to. I'll share that with you. It's pretty personal, but I created this safe haven called Fields of Boulder. And when I was dealing with talking about that trauma and revisiting it with the therapist, I would go also, after we would do that, I would go to the Fields of Boulder, which is something I created, which I imagined in my head was like a green, grassy area field where I could lay with Scooby. So that was like my safe space. But there's a lot to go into EMDR. And like I said, I'm not the most educated on it, but finding the right therapist for that is where I would start. Make sure they're EMDR specific and know what they're doing, because I feel like you don't want to revisit trauma unless it's with someone that's trusted and knows what they're doing. Have you ever dealt with self-sabotage and how did you overcome it? That is a great question. I have, and trigger warning, I have dealt with self-harm before. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but if you're not, maybe we won't get into that. Maybe I'll just go like the self-sabotage route. But I think I know what you're saying here, and it's that like you sabotage yourself from what you might really need. And like, yes, I think that I can relate to that with my binge eating disorder. When I was in the thick of it, I would binge to deal with my anxiety and my depression, and food would comfort me for 20 minutes, but then afterwards I would feel like crap. So I always felt like I was sabotaging myself then. And I would also like avoid moving my body. I would avoid doing things that I knew would help. So I felt like I was sabotaging myself for a bit, probably until I sought treatment and got help. Do you practice gratitude daily? Sunshine, fresh air, gratitude are my go-tos for mental health. That is an awesome coping skill. I definitely practice gratitude. Like, my life has changed significantly with all the social media stuff since April. And with that especially, I'm always like, okay, like, let's come back down to earth and let's remember to celebrate the in-betweens. I've really started to celebrate the small stuff, and it's been very helpful for me. So yes, gratitude is huge for me. Do you think mental health improved when you learned the difference between friend and friendly? That is a very interesting question. I do think that your mental health can improve when you have the right circle around you. I think it's quality over quantity with people in your life always. So I do think that making sure that you have friends that are supportive and, are real with you is really important. Someone said, Wellbutrin has been a lifesaver, but I've noticed a major increase in anxiety. Common. I have heard a bunch of mixed reviews about Wellbutrin. I was on it myself, worked for a little bit, but then it didn't. I definitely think you should talk to your doctor about it, because I'm a firm believer that you should not stay on any medication that's not actually helping you, because it's kind of like, what's the point? But don't stop taking it cold turkey. Make sure you talk to your doctor, wean off of it, and try something new. Definitely advocate for getting on the right medication for yourself. Someone else asked about EMDR. Hopefully my last little synopsis on it was enough, but let me know if you have more questions. What mental health issues do you struggle with, if you don't mind me asking? I mentioned it earlier, but it's been major depressive disorder, anxiety. There's both been general anxiety disorder and social anxiety disorder. I've gotten through my social anxiety pretty well, but I do still deal with it in certain overstimulating situations. And then I had the binge eating disorder for literally since I was a kid. And I think I don't want to say I'm fully recovered from it, because there are moments where I might eat too much, but it's not as bad as it was when I was ordering a bunch of food or picking up a bunch of snacks and just binging them, without even thinking, mindlessly. So those are kind of like my mental health struggles that I've been through. Last question that I'm seeing is, how did I tell others that I needed treatment? And I will tell this story. I told it in one of my other videos, but it's a pretty important, memory for me. So my timeline is in 2016 was when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I did talk therapy for years. It was working, but it also wasn't working. Went through a bunch of different therapists, a bunch of different doctors. It wasn't until 2022 that I was really struggling and I wasn't telling anyone about it. Usually I was a little bit more open about it, but I wasn't telling anyone about it this time. So we were about to go on a family vacation for my dad's 60th birthday, and everyone was ready to go. And I hadn't packed yet, and I couldn't get out of bed. And I knew internally that would send me over the edge. That would be like the thing that I couldn't do. And I was like, I need to ask for help one more time. So I basically told my mom first and said, Mom, I can't go on this trip. I need help, like real help. Not just like, talking to a therapist. I need, some treatment. And that was when, my parents were definitely like shocked. They weren't expecting that because I was working, I was doing everything, but internally I was suffering. I was dealing with suicidal ideation. It was really bad. And my parents were amazing. They helped me find a place in Mason, Ohio. I was not expecting to go out of state, but it can be really hard to find healthcare, especially mental health care. And that was the best option for me, was to go to Ohio. And basically that's how I did it. I had a support system, which was really, really, really key. But yeah, let's continue to have these conversations. I will continue to post mental health videos. I absolutely love advocating. I'm very passionate about it. I'm going to be speaking this summer in Salem, Massachusetts in August. I'll be sharing more details on that for anyone who wants to come. It's a mental health walk. Me and two other amazing speakers will be there. It's a great organization run by Mental Makeover, which is a nonprofit that advocates for mental health and does a lot of amazing things. So now I'm rambling, but let's just keep the conversation going. I want you guys to feel less alone. I've always said, and kind of like it's becoming my tagline, is I know that not everyone can talk about mental health, and I want to be the voice for you because I remember how darkening and upsetting it was to be feeling alone. And I want to speak for you when you can't. So I love you guys. I'll always be here for you. I'll always be advocating for mental health. And yeah, just remember, you really aren't alone, and that I love you.